triumph, not defeat, as enemies surround her and laugh with wireless deeds. Come now, O saintly knight, with sword at God's command to greet. Peace of battles, peace of battles, peace of battles. For how the days are numbered, a mystery sublime. The King shall send the earthward in sentencing the crime. Make faithful men to his, I call that disappointed time. Give us thy swordly spirit bright and marked with grace's sign. Peaceful battles, peaceful battles, peaceful battles. And will this great convulsion cease, thy name be more renowned. On wind is heard that battle still, the echo still resounds. Just like that ancient battle fought before all men were found. In heaven and on earth alike, my name acclaimed aloud. Peaceful battles, peaceful battles, peaceful battles.
There once was a band that took to the road. The name of the band was Charlemagne's sword. For epic tale is penned into chord. To campaigning we shall go. Whoa! May well the weather may change and bring a storm, wind, hurricane strange. High, low, the years may age. To campaigning we shall go. To the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, the Charlemagne sword did adventure best. Young caravanners will write the rest. To campaigning we shall go. Whoa! Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed, its tail it on. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. The band was as a band of brothers that confronted liberals and made them shudder. Face to face we made them stutter, to campaigning we shall go. Drag queens, BLM, socialists, abortionists, trans and Satanists, Pachamama and progressivists, to campaigning we shall go. Whoa! Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed with tail and all. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. The anti-curse from God is coming, to campaigning we shall go. The church of the one true God shall prevail. Once the dragon is locked in hell, the glories of Mary's knights will tell, to campaigning we shall go. Whoa! Soon the revolution will fall, the serpent's head crushed with tail and all. Sound the angel's trumpet call, to campaigning we shall go. Soon the greatest time will come and end the rule of Satan's scum. Some and all the angels come, to campaigning we shall go. Soon Mary's reign will come and bring back Charlemagne's Christendom. Long live Christ the King, her Son, to campaigning we shall go. Christians are pillaged and razed, for Saracens made it a goal to subdue. The cross of Christ falls glorious and true. And behold, there was found a man, a God-free bullion who would retake the land, where Christ the Lord was bound by his hands, and a traitor would hang himself over the sands. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, for to save for the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of hell. The crusading armies passed over the land, through tempests and flashes, through canyons so grand, such numerous dangers of battles to death, for heavens came heeding the victor's request. As thunder the drums of the armies resound, as banners of nobles fly high from the ground, the rumble of horsemen in numerous file, the glint of their armor be seen for a mile. For now, good Christian, for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, for to save for the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of hell. Thus castle by castle be conquered in time, till lastly was seen, O Jerusalem shine. At last then Duke Godfrey gave order to siege, the greatest of hardships to accomplish indeed. The first in the charge sending foes to the judge, a lion-like warrior swinging mace with a thud, till victory claimed, a great treasure attained, a land where Christ Jesus was born and was slain. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to save for the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the kingdom of hell. For now a good Christian for this you were born, take heart full of courage and brave every storm, so to save for the land where the God-man did dwell, who by death on the cross broke the
Welcome to your Catholic Drive Time,
keeping you informed and inspired.
We love God, we ought to be able to talk about Him.
getting you started on your day.
With the latest in breaking news and information.
From the Vatican to the White House and everything in between.
It's serious, it's fun, it's your Catholic Drive Time.
Now here's your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you on this Monday, October the 17th, 2022. Praise be to God. On the feast day of St. Ignatius of Antioch, successor of St. Peter in Antioch, not in Rome. Cool guy nonetheless, and if you've never read his 7 epistles, well, golly gee whiz, what are you doing with your life? I mean, you must reassess. I mean, take some time today. It would literally take you, I don't know, an hour, 2 tops to read all 7 of his letters, but they are absolutely worth it because it is going to be an eye-opening experience to discover just how Catholic the Church was in 100 AD from a guy who knew the apostles. I encourage you to do that today. Hey, Father Frank Pavone is going to be on the program at 35 past the hour. He's going to weigh in on all of the attacks on pregnancy help clinics that have nobody's been arrested in those cases, but pro-lifers are getting arrested. People he knows personally. He will discuss that with us at 35 past the hour. And then I want to ask the question at 15 past the hour. What makes the saints so different than you and me? What do they have that we don't? I want to talk to you about that at 15 past the hour. Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com is going to be on at the top of the second hour of Catholic Drive Time. We're going to be talking about 2 stories. He's got I don't know. It's like the biggest Monday edition at BigPulpit.com. There's like a ton of stories linked up over there. But the Pope extending the Synod to 2024 and Father Pfleger suspended by Cardinal Cupich. What's going on there? We'll conversate about that with Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com at the top of the next hour. So many stories in the news, of course. Electric vehicles, if you have one, keep it away from salt water. Apparently that causes them to explode and blow up and burn down. You don't want that. They're having a lot of problems of this nature in Florida. Mexico's nearly 300-year-old traditional pilgrimage of the Virgin of Zapopan drew record numbers, over 1 million people. That's amazing. I bet you didn't hear that in the news this weekend. Secession is on the agenda. Voters in 9 Oregon counties have already supported ballot measures. They want to leave Oregon and join Idaho. Secession in our country. Yikes. Disturbing images have emerged over the weekend in Iran. There is a prison over there notorious for housing all of the political dissidents that they don't like, all these people that have different opinions than the ruling party. They put them in this prison. Well, this prison burnt down over the weekend. We're not sure why, but there are fatalities. Please pray for the repose of their souls. But good morning to you, Rudy Carlos.
Good morning, Joe. And may I just ask you, dear listener, please pray for a man I encountered on the road this morning.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if he's okay or not, but he just kind of collapsed in the middle of the road at 5 in the morning. So please pray for them. Otherwise, it's good to be here.
Nothing but sunshine today.
Nothing but sun, yeah. In this vale of tears.
That's my job to be, Debbie Downer, but okay. Praise be to God.
Anyway.
How was your weekend, Rudy?
The weekend was kind of frustrating, to be honest with you, because there's too many projects, and I'm frozen. I don't know where to start. So
step 1, come to my house and mow my lawn, clean out my garage.
Oh, you still need that?
And that will give you peace and serenity and focus.
I love yard work. It's great.
Come on, let me keep you busy then.
All right, good.
Good morning to you, Adrian Fonseca.
Howdy. Praise be to God. It's good to be here.
Is it?
It is. Praise be to God. Yes, despite all the bad news from you, Debbie Downers. No, praise be to God.
Speaking of which, I heard you had some bad news over the weekend.
I did.
You had to go to Dallas.
Oh.
You just had to.
Right. Bad news. Well, I guess the bad news about it was the highways over there are awful. It's like trying to navigate a maze. I'm going over. I'm like, please God, do not let me miss my exit, because then this trip will be another 45 minutes.
No, there's 4 billion options in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Absolutely awful. However, I went to the Blessed Karl of Austria Symposium, and that was pretty epic. Blessed Karl of Austria, I did not realize how amazing he is. I did not get the grasp of him, and I did not get why everybody liked him so much. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go on this symposium, and I'm going to learn about this guy and see if I actually should like him. And sure enough, I left, and I was like, wow. This guy is it's pretty epic. Maybe I'll tell you about him during the after show.
Well, we've discussed him in the past with your good friend. What was his Saint? What was his name? Rudy Carlos St. Charles Cologne.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, peace be upon him.
Peace be upon him.
We've had that conversation in the past. He is a very fascinating character. Maybe we should revisit that topic. But nonetheless, we have a lot to get into. I do want to share with you something I did on Friday night that was epic and cool, and I'll do that at 15 past the hour. But let's pray. Let's get into it. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now your headlines with Rudy Carlos.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning into Catholic Drive Time. Today is Monday, October 17th, and here are your headlines this morning. Ground News reports prominent Chicago priest accused of sexual abuse of minor. The Archdiocese of Chicago announced on Saturday that there will be an investigation into a new allegation of sexual abuse against Father Michael Pfleger. The abuse is alleged to have occurred more than 30 years ago. Father Pfleger has been asked to step aside from his ministry and live away from the parish. You may remember Father Pfleger from his unique masses. Military.com reports 11 Russian troops slain at shooting range as fighting rages. At least 11 Russian soldiers were killed on Saturday in a shooting incident. The Russian Defense Ministry said 2 men opened fire at volunteer soldiers that is, during target practice sessions in western Russia, killing 11 of them and wounding 15 others before being killed themselves by return fire. The ministry called it a terror attack. And the Epoch Times reports Abbott Nutrition recalls some of its liquid baby formula. Abbott Nutrition has announced it's recalling some of its baby formula products sent to hospitals and retailers in the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean because of the risk that some of it may be spoiled. The company said the voluntary recall is for certain lots of its 2-ounce fluid bottles of ready-to-feed liquid products for infants and children. The caps of some of the bottles in the recalled lots may not have been sealed completely, which the company said could result in spoilage. Spoiled products, if consumed, could cause gastrointestinal symptoms such as diarrhea, vomiting, or worse. And Ground News also reports retail sales flat in September with inflation hot. Spending at retail stores fell flat in September as consumers continue to confront the hottest inflation in 40 years. Retail sales, a measure of how much consumers spent on a number of everyday goods, including cars, food, and gasoline, was unchanged at 0% in September, the Commerce Department announced. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
The saint of the day is St. John the Dwarf. He was born around the year 339 around Theban region in the Upper Egypt in a poor but holy family. His desire for monastic life led him since his early years to remote places where he trained himself for this austere lifestyle. It was not long before he was led by divine inspiration to leave his town. He retired when only 18 years old into the wilderness of Skeet, also called the Natron Valley, and set himself with his whole heart to put on the Spirit of Christ. He went to become a disciple of the old hermit Abba Pumoa, who was the teacher of Saint Pishoy, the perfect man. Abba Pahoma tried to deter him from adopting this harsh monastic life. By night, an angel appeared to him, asking him to accept the young John as a monk. After 3 full days of fasting and prayers, the master and the disciple witnessed an angel blessing the new cloths John was to put on. St. John renounced all distraction and entertainment, and since monasteries were not built at that time, only hermits were populating the desert. He endured all the difficult tests as an experienced master rather than a bright disciple. Abba Poma led him to perfect watchfulness, solitude, subduing the body, meekness, silence, humility, simplicity, and obedience. About silence, he taught him, saying, "My son, be silent, lest evil thoughts overtake your mind and lose your soul." Particularly in church, we ought the most to be careful in order to be worthy of the presence of holy mysteries. When he drew near his end, his disciples entreated him to leave them some final lesson of Christian perfection. He sighed that he might shun the air of a teacher. Alleging his own doctrine and practice, he said, "I never followed my own will, nor did I ever teach another what I had not first practiced myself." When he departed, his servants, who was coming back from the village, saw the angels carrying his soul to heaven. Accompanied by the spirits of the saints, he then treated the body with honor and carried him to the village. Later, in 515, his body was taken to the desert Ascete. Saint John the Dwarf, pray for us.
Praise be to God in all things. The gospel today comes to us from Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 21. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." He replied to him, "Friend, who appointed me as your judge and arbiter?" Then he said to the crowd, "Take care to guard against all greed. For though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions." Then he told them a parable. There was a rich man whose land produced a bountiful harvest. He asked himself, "What shall I do? For I do not have space to store my harvest." And he said, "This is what I shall do. I shall tear down my barns and build bigger ones. There I shall store all my grain and other goods, and I shall say to myself, 'Now as for you, you have so many good things stored up for many years. Rest, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this night your life will be demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, to whom will they belong? Thus will it be for the one who stores up treasure for himself, but is not rich in what matters to God.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. I really liked Haydock's commentary today for a very specific reason, actually, and I'll tell you about that in the next segment. But Haydock said this man might think that Jesus, being the Messiah, would act like a king and a judge, seeing in this the spirit of the world. At the very time Jesus is teaching disinterestedness, I can't speak today, but we move on, and the contempt of riches. And he is interrupted by a man who begs him to interfere in a temporal concern. Deaf to everything else this man can think of, his temporal interests only. He begged half an inheritance on earth, but the Lord offered him a whole one in heaven. He gave him more than he asked for, quoting there from St. Augustine. Haydock's commentary goes on to say, our Savior does not here mean to say that he is, or his church does not have the authority to judge. For he was appointed by his Father, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and the Judge of all. He only wished to keep himself as much detached as possible from worldly concerns. Number one, not to favor the opinion of carnal Jews who expected a powerful king for the Messiah. And number two, to show that the ecclesiastical ministry was entirely distinct from political government, and that he and his ministers were sent not to take care of earthly kingdoms, but to seek after and prepare men for heavenly inheritance. Quoting there from St. Ambrose and Venerable Bede and others. Close quotes, Haydock's commentary. You see, here's the kicker. The Lord knows our intentions. We can't hide from him. We could play, a certain way. We can pretend, we can rationalize, we can convince ourselves in certain ways that we want the Lord to do certain things for us, to be on our side, But the Lord knows our intentions. He knows our hearts, and he could read right through this man, knowing that his concern was of material interest only. Yes, we have to live in this world and we need material things, but we should be so detached from those material things when it comes to the salvation of our souls, as to throw them away if they should impede that one and only goal of obtaining heaven. If they impede that, we should not have them. Get rid of them. Hey, we'll be right back. What's concerning us is coming up next.
Told that so long as sexual activity is performed between consenting adults, there's nothing morally wrong with what's done. Is this a reasonable way of morally evaluating sexual behavior? I don't think so, and here's why. First, such reasoning justifies disturbing acts like that of Orman Maivas, who butchered and ate a willing victim that responded to an advertisement placed on the internet. I don't think we want to say consensual cannibalism is okay. Second, the assertion arbitrarily picks consent as the only aspect of nature's design for sex as having any moral significance. If we must reverence nature's design for consensual sex, then why is it okay to not reverence nature's design for procreation? If it's okay to reject one, well, then it's okay to reject the other. So rather than reverencing consensual sex, this argument undermines it. I'm Carlo Broussard with the ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Men, it's time. Participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th, 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. in Boston. There is a man connected to every abortion. Men are a big part of the problem, and it's time for all men to take responsibility and be a big part of the solution. All men of goodwill are invited to participate in the march, and everyone else is needed to show up for the rally beginning at 2 p.m. outside of the State House. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and spread the word.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Father Frank Pavone from Priest for Life is going to be our guest at 35 past the hour. We're going to catch up with him, kind of get like a post-Roe v. Wade report card from him. But also we're going to be talking about the DOJ/FBI arrests of pro-lifers, when still to this date there are no arrests in the case of Jane's Revenge, more than 100 attacks on pregnancy clinics and such. We'll get his opinion on that, which reminds me, tomorrow on the program, we are interviewing not one but two FBI whistleblowers. Both are Catholic, by the way. We're going to get them onto the program to talk about why did they become whistleblowers as federal agents, what they're concerned with, and what their opinion is of what seems to be an abuse of power, really, going on in the DOJ and the FBI. All of that on tomorrow's program. Do please share us with a friend if you can. But I want to talk to you about what the saints have that you and I don't. Why are they so incredibly different than you or I? When I think about the saints, and right now I'm spending a lot of time thinking about the saints, actually, because I'm preparing to give some talks this coming Friday at a parish in New Hampshire, in Hudson, New Hampshire, St. Catherine's there. I'll give my testimony of conversion on Friday night, and on Saturday I'm giving a 3-part series called The Radical Choice. That's a talk I've given at other parishes around the country. And I always talk about the saints and sinners. What makes them unique and interesting? What do they know that we don't know? And so I love to dive into the lives of saints. And of course, I've been preparing myself to do exactly that. And over this weekend, I spent some time going through St. Theresa of Avila one more time, her interior castle. And she has so much to offer to us. And then, of course, this morning I saw an article out of Catholic News Agency about St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, because Saturday was St. Teresa's feast day and Sunday was St. Margaret Mary's feast day. Now, St. Margaret Mary Alacoque had the vision of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and she was told to tell the King of France to hold up, to ask every French citizen to have this devotion, because it would save France from the French Revolution, which he didn't do, and neither did his son. And so we have the French Revolution to thank for so many problems and corruption and twistedness in the world today. So I was reflecting on these saints and how much they have to offer, and this patrimony, this gift that should have been passed on and wasn't. Well, let me take you now to what happened to me on Friday. So on Friday, my wife asked me to go to a yard sale with her. There was someone in our neighborhood that was trying to sell off everything they had because they were moving. And my wife said, "Can you go with me?" I'm like, "I don't really want to go. Are you kidding?" I was reading. I was preparing for my talks, doing some homework, and I was comfortable in my comfortable chair, and I didn't want to get up. She's like, "Can you go with me?" I'm like, "I don't really want to go." But she's like, "Can you go with me?" I'm like, "Fine, whatever." So I drive her there. And what was there that attracted my wife was there was these two statues. There was a statue of Our Lady of Victory, and there was a statue of St. Anne. And they were antiques, and they were in a little bit of rough shape, but she was interested in looking at them and buying them. And so we get there, and she's looking at those and hemming and hawing whether or not she wants them. I'm thinking, this is great antiques. Buy them. What are you talking about? $15 a piece. They're about 23 inches or so a piece. And they're antiques. They're, get them. Let the defects be a part of the character, I say. But while she was hemming and hawing, I decided to poke around. And I went into one of the back rooms because they use the entire house as like their yard sale thing. And I went into the back room, and there on the floor was this giant Bible, like this huge, massive thing. I mean, literally, this thing had to be, it's got to be
15 pounds.
I mean, it's heavy. It's huge. It's got to be 6 to 8 inches thick. It's that big. Massive thing. Leather bound. And looks very old. So I pick it up, and I open it up, and lo and behold, and Adrian, I'm sharing my desktop for those that are on the video feed so they can see the pictures. But lo and behold, it's a Douay-Rheims. And I'm like, ooh. But it's not just any Douay-Rheims. It is a Haydock, Father Haydock version of the Douay-Rheims. So this is a Father Haydock Bible printed in England in the 19th century. And my mind is like blown. Now it gets better. Because on the spine of this leather-bound, humongous Bible is in fact the names of Michael and Hannah Murphy, who were married in Ireland in 1853. And to me, that was very, very intriguing. Because when you open the Bible and you go through it, what you discover is Hannah and Michael immigrated to the United States in the very same year that they were married in Ireland. They came to first New Bedford, Massachusetts, and then in 1861, they moved on to Joliet, Illinois, where I believe they had this Bible rebound and or purchased it as a wedding anniversary type of gift. I'm not so sure. But in there, they list their kids, they list their immigration status, and the fact that one of their children died. Their son was 18 years old when he died in 1874. I don't know how or why. But the whole and then we went through like all the pages, and the artwork is exquisite. Haydock's commentary is amazing. But inside there were papers. There was ferns that were placed inside the pages. There was at least 2 ferns in there. And to me, and our kids just were diving into this, and it was so fascinating to try to unravel the mystery of who Michael and Hannah were. Why do they have this Bible? And did they drag this Bible all across the Atlantic Ocean in what would have been a stormy season? Because they were married in August, and they came over the same year. So the seas probably weren't very calm for them. Or did they just buy this in Joliet? Because there is an intriguing typo on the spine. They misspelled the town in Ireland where they were married. It says Mickletown, but there's no town in Cork County named Mickletown. It is Mitchelltown, so it's a typo. And then I looked up a video on YouTube for the Haydock Commentary Bible and its origins, found a great video. And in about halfway through this video, the people who made the video in England, this is where it was all done in England, referenced an expert on Haydock Commentary Bibles. Haydock Bibles from the 19th century. The guy happened to be in my town here. He lives right in my backyard. And I look him up, and it turns out the guy runs in the same circles as I do. He's posting pictures of my parish, for crying out loud. I'm like, my mind is blown. So I reach out to the guy to see if I can't connect with him. And lo and behold, I connect with him. And he tells me that this particular Bible, not mine, the one that I own now, but rather the Haydock Commentary Bible, has historical significance. And I'm just so intrigued by this. And the idea comes to me I bought this thing for $20. It's worth a lot more, but I don't plan on selling it. But the idea that Michael and Hannah at some point lost this Bible, and that intrigues me. Why is that? Why would they get rid of this? Was it their choice? Was it their, or maybe it wasn't their choice. Maybe they gave it to their kids and their kids got rid of it. Their kids. I have no idea. But I wonder if I can't discover their relatives today, and I wonder if I shouldn't give this Bible back to them. Because it's a patrimony. It's an inheritance. It's a symbol, to be sure, but it's about something greater. Are their descendants faithful Catholics today, or have they lost the faith? And it reminded me of the saints, and St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, and St. Theresa of Avila. St. Theresa, born in 1515, she was well-to-do. Her parents were Jewish converts under Isabel and Ferdinand, and her mom died when she was young, and she struggled with that mightily. And she became a nun, but she, at a time where there was great complacency and slothfulness. And in fact, she, because of her status and her wealth, had a pretty nice cell, and she could decorate it as she wanted. She had visitors come to her cell, even male visitors come hang out with her, chat with her, whatever. And then she had this conversion-like experience, this mystical experience that changed her life forever, and frankly changed religious communities for the last 500 plus years. The Discalced Carmelites and the strict rule. And you might remember she wrote The Interior Castle and the 7 Castles of Perfection, and how you have to leave the moat on the outside with all of its snakes and wild creatures, which is mortal sin, and enter the castle, which is just the scratch on the surface where you're barely learning to pray, let alone having an actual relationship with the Lord. And as you grow more intense in relationship, and as you move further into the interior of the castle, you grow closer to Christ, and you abandon the world around you. And therein lies the trick. Going back to St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, her spiritual director, the one that actually believed her because her superior didn't, was St. Colomber, St. Jean Colomber, a Jesuit. And he wrote a book that I have read now many times, and I highly encourage you to read it too, called Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence. And therein lies the trick, and what the saints know that you and I don't know. And that is to abandon this world, stop trying to be the friend of the world, stop trying to look like the world, stop trying to act like the world, stop trying to accept the ways of the world as though they are normal and okay. Abandon yourself to the trustful surrender of divine providence, accept all that God has in store for you, good and bad, offering it all up for the glory of God, for the salvation of souls, to include your own. And as you grow in that regard, you grow in greater relationship and unity with the Lord. And those souls, those very rare few souls that make it to the 6th castle, let alone the 7th castle, those souls are the ones that probably are going to skip purgatory and go straight to heaven. But also in the 6th castle, can you imagine, by the time you get there, you don't care anything about what happens in the world. You are so abandoned to God's ways. You have experienced mystical experiences like ecstasies or levitation. St. Theresa of Avila levitated a lot. I'm thinking of St. Junipero, not St. Junipero, but St. Giuseppe of Cupertino, levitated all the time. They had to hold him down with a rope for crying out. He'd float off. I mean, these are the saints. These are these rare souls that experience this. But guess what happened before they get to the 7th castle? The dark night of the soul. And they felt dry, abandoned. But guess what? Those souls that experienced that, they also didn't go back to the ways of the world simply because they felt dryness. Therein lies the trick between the saints and you and me. And I think there's a lot to reflect on there. And I wonder about people like Michael and Hannah Murphy from 1853 and what was to become of them and their children and their children's children. And I wonder if you and I are like the rich man in the parable today in the gospel, and we build bigger barns and we store up the air quotes goods of this world. And yet, where our hearts lie, there lies our treasure. And where and what is the treasure of your heart and my heart? Let's ponder that today. Let us be more like the saints and abandon ourselves to God's trustful divine providence for our life and accept all that comes, no matter good or bad. I know I struggle with it. I bet you do too. Hey, we'll be right back. Father Pavone is up next.
This is Dale Ahlquist with a Chesterton Minute. Have you ever heard someone say, the Catholic view of marriage may be an ideal, but it cannot be a reality? Well, G.K. Chesterton says, it is an ideal in a diseased society. It is a reality in a healthy society. For where it is real, it makes society healthy. We know we cannot make a perfectly healthy society because while we believe in marriage and the church, we also believe in something called the fall of man, which also has an effect on society. But the point is that we believe not just in an ideal, but in something practical. Practical in the sense that we want to make something. We want to create Christian families as opposed to those who are always ready to destroy the family, who give up on the ideal and give in to whatever is easiest at the moment. Want more than a minute? Chesterton.org.
Hi, this is Pam Stenzel. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 a.m. for the march, and then everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about the need to value and protect every preborn baby from fertilization. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and spread the word.
Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired, and now more headlines. CNA reports German Cardinal Gerhard Müller visits home of Mark Houck, target of an FBI raid. Müller then made a statement condemning the arrest of Houck, whom he called a peaceful father defending his son, defending the right of life of babies, and compared the actions of the FBI to the Chinese Communist police. He said also, quote, "How could it happen in a democratic state where natural law is the basis of the decisions of the American nation? Therefore, as a Catholic bishop and Roman Catholic cardinal, I condemn these actions against non-armed families, against children. It's threatening for children, terrorizing them," he said, continuing, "There is no reason and no justification for this brutal action against these peaceful families," unquote. Breitbart reports Iran's Islamic Guards training Russian drone crews in Ukraine, according to reports. The Ukrainian government and its Western allies have alleged that Russia, now running low on missiles, has turned to Iranian-made Shahed 136 drones to supplement its arsenal, including during its recent wave of strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure in retaliation for damage to the Kerch Bridge between Crimea and the Russian mainland. Moreover, it's now claimed that up to 50 specialists from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are in Crimea, overseeing and perhaps even personally controlling drone launches against Ukrainian targets. And the Daily Wire reports, no deadliest catch. 1 billion snow crabs vanish from Bering Sea, and no one knows why. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game canceled the winter snow crab season in the Bering Sea after determining that 90% of the population has disappeared in the last 2 years. While the news is bad for commercial fishermen and seafood lovers, experts now think it may bode a little bit worse for the ecosystem. The risks of harvesting snow crabs and the Alaska king crab from the tempestuous Bering Sea have been dramatized by the Discovery reality TV show Deadliest Catch, which has aired since 2005 and was narrated by Mike Rowe. It follows multiple commercial fishing crews as they struggle to haul in as many of the lucrative shellfish as they can. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
Praise be to God in all things. Thank you, Rudy, for keeping us up to date. And so this week, I just want to go over this week real quick with you. Tomorrow, I'll be on the show, but we will have two, not one, but two FBI whistleblowers, both Catholics, by the way, on the program tomorrow. And they'll be sharing their own stories of why they made the decision to become whistleblowers. But we're also going to talk about what they see as a real problem within their own ranks. And it'll be a very interesting conversation. Please do join us for that. And then I get on an airplane with my family and we fly off to New Hampshire for the next 2 weeks. I would be grateful to you if you would keep us in your prayers, of course. I'll be giving, as I said earlier, a talk Friday night at St. Catherine, and then I'll be giving 3 talks at St. Catherine on Saturday called The Radical Choice. And very much in line with what I was just talking about a minute ago. So I'd be grateful that that goes really well, that everybody there is impacted by those talks. It would be a wonderful thing if you'd pray for that. And then, as I said, I'll be gone. So this week, later this week, we have Jesus Robles, friend of the show, is going to be filling in on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Next week, our friend Brent Haynes is going to be filling in, of course. Praise be to God. And then the week after, Mike Koniger, our friend from Virginia, he will be filling in. So while I'm gone, you're going to get some great programming and a lot of diverse conversations. So do share us with a friend and join us if you can. But joining us right now via Zoom chat is Father Frank Pavone from Priests for Life. Good morning to you, Father.
Good morning. Great to be with you again.
Yeah, praise be to God. Good to see you. Thank you for your time today. I was just telling everybody that tomorrow we actually have 2 FBI whistleblowers that are going to be on our program to talk about what we see as an overreach and abuse within the DOJ and the FBI. I'd like to get your opinion on this. There's been well over 100 attacks of pro-life pregnancy centers, Catholic churches, organizations, and to date, as far as I know, there's been 0 arrests, even though like Jane's Revenge is taking credit for some of this stuff. So it's like you don't even have to go that far to look for who's done this. But apparently that's under investigation, but no arrest. But pro-lifers, on the other hand, are being visited at their front doors by men in tactical gear. What say you, Father Frank Pavone?
Well, there's no doubt that this is an ideologically driven FBI and DOJ. There's these and so many other instances, examples. But it's the problem of the administration. The entire federal administration now under the Democrat Party is like this, and they've told us. See, this was one of the things that, back in, of course, this started happening long before the September 1st speech that Biden gave. But we were sounding an alarm, when he gave that speech, criticizing half the country. And it doesn't matter if a believer is, listening to that speech and they say, he's criticizing former President Trump, he's criticizing the MAGA movement, he's criticizing the Republicans. That doesn't involve me, a believer might say. But a lot of believers will say, hey, yeah, that he is talking about me. But those who believe in the values we hold, those who treasure the faith that we profess, need to understand, yeah, he's talking about you. And to talk about people like this in ways that he did, where he says it's a threat to the republic, undermining democracy, well, you don't say those things about people from the highest levels of government and then expect that the highest levels of government are going to treat them equally and respect their rights. So that speech is very revealing, and we have to take a step back and see that it's articulating the driving philosophy. In fact, if you look at the strategy memos and the party platform documents of the Democrat Party, when you and I talk about religious freedom, and that includes the freedom to protest abortion and to save the unborn, because we're doing it for religious reasons as well as for basic human reasons. They see that as discrimination, and this is not something we're concluding. Their own documentation and strategy memos are saying this. So it's time really for the church and believers and pro-lifers to realize we are. It's no exaggeration to say we are in a stage here of persecution under the government of the United States of America, and all these sad examples are showing that.
It definitely feels like lopsided justice. I mean, when we break the law, we can expect the outcome of that. It's a reasonable, logical progression. But when you see people breaking the law and there is no ramification, there is no consequence, nobody ever does anything, it does seem incredibly lopsided. Now, in this case, you know some of these people personally. You spent a lot of time with them. Tell us about them.
Well, first of all, of course, Mark Houck, the pro-life activist from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, a leader. He's involved in 40 Days for Life. In fact, I'll be talking to him later this morning, and did an interview recently with his attorney, Peter Breen. The man is simply a life-loving, faithful husband and father. Eva Edel, who survived a concentration camp, I've been praying with her on the streets of America since the beginning of my Priest for Life work. We were together in so many places in front of abortion facilities where she talked about how, her time in the concentration camp brought her to Jesus and brought her to an even deeper appreciation of the need to speak out for the vulnerable. She's a holy woman. Cal Zastro is a firebrand, and he goes across America, and the word that comes out of his mouth most frequently is revival. Revival. He preaches about spiritual revival. He's a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It reminds me of St. Paul, what he says in the Acts of the Apostles. It's interesting, isn't it, how we read these scripture passages, with great reverence and devotion, and yet sometimes we don't, if we saw the behavior that those passages are describing, sometimes we don't recognize it. And then there's Chet Gallagher. The man was a law enforcement officer. He was asked one day to go arrest pro-life Christians who were blockading an abortion mill.
Wow.
He was convicted in conscience. He was convicted in conscience when he saw them sitting there explaining why they were doing what they were doing. Mm-hmm. You know what he did? He turned around and sat down with them.
Wow.
And joined in the blockade.
Wow.
Chet Gallagher, again, I've known him for decades. The man is a man of such faith. I mean, you take these four people, and it's like, this is the fruit of exactly what the church is trying to foster when she gives us the examples of the saints, when she exhorts us in the liturgy and in the teachings of the church to give ourselves for Christ, to have zeal for the gospel. And let me just point out one more thing. These people are being charged by the FBI with violations of the FACE, with the exception of Mark, with the violations of the FACE law. Now, I remember in 1994 when President Bill Clinton signed this bill into law. And by the way, I told Mother Theresa about it. I visited with her in Calcutta just a few months after Clinton signed this law. Now, this law makes it a federal crime for people to peacefully intervene and blockade abortion facilities. And one of the things we said when that law was passed was, hey, wait a minute, this is overreach. There are already laws to deal with trespass, if that's what they're concerned about. And as far as any kind of intimidation or God forbid, violence, there are already laws to deal with that. Why are you singling out people who want to end abortion and making this a federal crime? Now, the Republicans amended the bill and made it include churches and pregnancy centers, interestingly enough, and then that just highlights the lopsidedness of this that you pointed out.
Hold that thought right there, Father. I'm sorry, but we're right at a network break. Father Frank Pavone is our guest, Priest for Life. We're talking about this FBI overreach and more right after this break.
Hi, this is Father Stephen Imperato. Join us in Boston for the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th. Men, we will gather outside the Planned Parenthood to begin the march, and then we're going to meet everyone else for a 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about constitutional personhood for the preborn and where we need to go from here. For more information, go to themensmarch.com. Again, details, mensmarch.com. Join us and spread the word.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your 1-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. Your only daughter met a fine young man who was a committed Mormon. She now wants to join his church. What's your answer? Well, here's your 3 best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number 1, a reason for no. Doctrinal positions such as the deity of Jesus and the Trinity. Your reason for yes. You deem seemingly moral character as superseding biblical truth. Secondly, orthodoxy. Your answer is probably no. But how and why? Your resistance to Mormon doctrine does not just come straight down from the Bible. original. It comes from the first 5 centuries of brilliant theologians, bishops, and popes. These Catholics wrote, debated, and fought for truth. Example, in 250 AD, 311, and 417, 3 different popes excommunicated 3 different heretics, Sabellius, Arius, and Pelagius. They denied the Trinity, the eternal deity of Jesus, or taught that human effort warranted salvation. Would your pastor excommunicate a heretic? Well, unfortunately, your pastor can only remove someone from his local congregation. But that's okay. That guy will probably end up being welcomed in a church down the street.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Father Frank Pavone is our guest, priest for life. And we're talking about this story about pro-lifers being arrested. Again, over 100 attacks on pro-life clinics, churches, organizations. No arrests to date so far. Father, just before the break, you were talking about how you were sharing with St. Theresa of Calcutta the moment when this sort of became, this FACE Act thing became law. That's where you left off. Did you want to pick up there?
It was in 1994, and I described to her, what this law did to peaceful pro-life activists. Here's what she said to me. Here's her exact words. Father, if we had that law here in India, I would have been thrown in jail many times.
Wow.
Because I go to the places where the abortions are done, and I take the women by the arm and I pull them away. And I imagine that scenario. Mother Teresa was so short, and she would go and she would literally take these young moms away. And she said, and I would bring them to our sisters and say, you have hope for your life and your baby. So, I mean, she was just astonished that this would be happening. And I'd like to ask the FBI today, would you be willing to arrest Mother Teresa? Because that's what you'd have to do if you're going to continue down this path.
Father, I was talking to our good friend, Attorney Brent Haynes, about the FACE Act violations. And I was, this is just something that's been on my mind. It's driving me crazy. How is it that these pro-life organizations are attacked, firebombed? I mean, these are some extreme examples, right? And they're happening. And yet, it's almost nothing has happened. I asked Brent, and I said, do these pregnancy centers, are they protected by the FACE Act? And he was telling me that no, only the abortion centers pretty much are the ones who are protected by the FACE Act violations. It just seems really, really convenient, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, de facto, only the abortion facilities end up being protected. But if you look at the FACE law, it was expanded, and health care services, reproductive care services. The argument can be made that that violence against both churches and pregnancy centers should be prosecuted under this law. But we see the lopsided, unfair treatment, and you can see it from another perspective too. When in the mid-90s we had a couple of instances of abortionists being shot, happened in Florida, happened in Brookline, Massachusetts, and upstate New York. Bill Clinton, again at that time, sent out federal marshals to the other abortion facilities as a precaution. It's like, oh my goodness, what a difference between their reaction to protect these abortion centers when there was violence at one or another place, and the utter lack of response and lack of similar protection being offered to these pregnancy centers under this administration.
I am very intrigued, and I'm looking forward to our conversations tomorrow with these two whistleblowers out of the FBI, both Catholic, both are very concerned about the direction in which they're being used as pawns. This has been something, because I know Mark. I've known Mark since 2007. He and I were just together before he got arrested, actually. We spent the weekend prior to the Friday he got arrested. We were together in Arizona. And it always struck me. I serve in the Marine Corps. I know what it means to do one's duty, to follow orders. But it always seems strange that very highly educated men and women who serve in our FBI, people who I imagine don't set out to have these sort of political agenda biases, simply go along with this and simply follow those rules. Yeah. It always struck me as like, golly gee whiz, not one person stood up and said, hey, I think this is probably way too much. Maybe he'll just turn himself in. And then we learned that he offered to turn himself in 3 months before then, and they just simply decided to knock and bang on his door instead. How do you see it from that perspective, Father Frank?
You know, we always are responsible for our actions. Even when we're under obedience, we are responsible for deciding that we are going to follow a certain order, carry out a certain command, and we never are exempt from the duty to evaluate it in our own conscience before we take that step. So I agree completely with what you're saying. And here's the other thing people have to understand, including those that work in these agencies. What damage is this doing to the American public and our ordinary, legitimate activities for law enforcement or for investigations? Because if this is happening now, and more people are understanding now that this has become a pattern, that law enforcement agencies and other bureaus are being used against us because of our beliefs, our religious views, our political views, well then how does that inspire confidence in the American people when, the FBI needs to ask people questions in the course of its legitimate business? People are not going to want to cooperate. And because now we're forced to be in a position where we've got to advise people, hey, listen, if the FBI comes knocking at your door, don't talk to them. And the reason we have to start advising people like that is you don't have to answer any questions to any of these agencies to justify your political, religious, or pro-life beliefs. You don't have to do that. Because what's happening is if the people do that, because they want to be cooperative citizens, that information ends up being used against them. So it's like this is undermining the confidence the American people should have in these institutions. They don't anymore, and that makes it hard to do legitimate business.
Let's talk about post-Roe. Now that we're over 100 days since the Dobbs decision out of the Supreme Court, what is your report card for our country now at this point of the situation?
Well, a lot of protection of life is happening. We've got about 13 states now that are protecting the babies from the beginning of their lives. That's pretty awesome. We were waiting for decades for, what would be the first abortion-free state. And now all of a sudden we've got over a dozen of them. We got another 5 states or so that are protecting babies from the time that the heartbeat is detected. And you've got altogether about 30 states that have some kind of meaningful gestational limit to abortion. In other words, it's going to stop at this particular point in pregnancy. Of course, then you have a handful of other states that allow it all the way through. So we're making great, and the fruits are immediate and long-lasting for the lives that are actually being saved. At the same time, we have not yet even begun to appreciate what a great victory the Dobbs case is. And what I mean is the foundation has been taken out from under all the court decisions at every level of our court system and all the laws, including the FACE law, by the way. The foundation has been taken away from these because in as much as they were passed, enacted, or decided based on Roe and Casey. Well, now Roe and Casey are bad law. They're gone. And any challenge to these other court decisions, any challenge to these laws is going to have much more probability of success because, again, the basis is gone. So we're still in a little bit of a period of unrest on both sides of the issue because our first duty here is to really deeply understand what the Dobbs case said. We have a resource on that, SupremeCourtVictory.com. I want to encourage folks to go there and read and watch the videos and learn because we can't plan our next steps of strategy unless we really deeply understand the change that the court has brought about, and it's a good one.
There were some surprises, I would say, so far. Kansas, I did not see. We're talking heartland country here. We're talking about, people call it flyover country. I call it the heart of our country. Kansas, not trying to do away with abortion there. Did that surprise you?
Well, not really, because this is these ballot initiatives are actually very hard to win. Because it's not, when you think about it, it's not the legislative process where people can you really have substantial debate and witnesses and counter arguments and amendments and documents, and the public can really be informed about what, in all its detail, this particular legislative proposal means. When you have these ballot initiatives, you're talking about you got an artificial deadline, and just it's a popular vote of the people. So if you've got, a very, very left-leaning population in one of the big cities, that can drag the whole country with it. If you have money coming from the outside, which is what we always see, we see money coming from the outside, from the pro-abortion people, to promote misleading slogans, false advertising. And that's how the other side often wins these amendments. So it shouldn't be too much of a cause for concern. We're going to see a couple of these others on the ballot in November 8th. But really, like the Dobbs case said, it's the people and their elected representatives that need to hash out the abortion policy. And we're going to make much more progress in the legislatures than we will on some of these ballot initiatives.
Were there any other surprises to you? I guess the case in Indiana, that's just a judge appointment holding everything back there. I mean, it's not as though the citizens are wanting abortion as much as just the judge appointed is blocking the law.
Well, what people need to understand, the strategy of the other side is, let's hide behind the judges, because then again, we don't have to deal with the legislative process that makes people really think about abortion and its effects. So they hide behind the judges. Now, they can't hide behind the Supreme Court anymore. So now they're trying to hide behind the state courts or the state constitutions. And that's why we see some of these ballot measures. It's not going to work ultimately. These judges, again, are relying on concepts that were put forth under Roe and Casey. For example, if you think you can find a right to abortion under the right to privacy, well, the arguments from Dobbs should settle that issue. No other assertion of privacy that we all would acknowledge involves the taking of another life. This was one of the key arguments the court made. Likewise, the history. If there's never been a constitutional right to abortion asserted in American history, well, that includes Kansas history, Michigan history, Indiana history. These judges are going to start to realize that they can't go down this path anymore. These arguments have been refuted by the Supreme Court, and those Dobbs arguments are going to start to have an impact even in these lower courts. That's why I say it's still a period where we're unsettled. They're acting according to a pattern they've been trained to act in for 50 years. The judges eventually are going to learn how to apply Dobbs, because remember, now Dobbs is precedent, and they need to respect and apply it.
You got about 15 seconds, but do you think Congress will pass a pro-abortion legislation?
No, I don't think they'll try. The Democrats will try, and they've tried for decades to make a federal law that erases all limits on abortion. It's not going to succeed because the American people want more restrictions on abortion, not less.
All right. Praise be to God. Father Frank Pavone, Priest for Life, priestforlife.org. Check him out online. God bless you, Father. Thank you for your time today. We're always grateful to have you.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for hour number 1 of Catholic Drive Time. If you can join us in the second hour, we would love to have you. Tito Edwards from BigPulpit.com is going to be on. And then, of course, we have our game show, Fear and Trembling, plus an after show, and so much more is coming your way. Do join us online if you can, grnonline.com/CDT. God bless you. God bless you.
Hi, this is Sister Dee Dee Burns. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men, gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 a.m. for the march. Everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about the urgent need to be actively pro-life and pro-eternal life. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and please spread the word.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your 1-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. Can you really say you know what praying the rosary is all about? So here's your 3 best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number 1, listen to the who's who of the rosary. We have the Blessed Trinity, we have the Angel Gabriel, we have the Virgin Mary, we have John the Baptist, and we have Elizabeth. So how's that for a cast of sacred ones? Secondly, reflection. While saying the rosary, we reflect on 20 primary and sacred moments that occur in the lives of the Holy Family. And thirdly, the Rosary Dynamics. Here's how you involve this cast of holy ones in praying the Rosary. You first invoke the three persons of the Blessed Trinity, then on to praying the Apostles' Creed. Then you will pray in Our Father. Then you will recite the angel Gabriel's words to Mary. Then you'll recite what Mary said to Elizabeth, and then you will relive John the Baptist being filled with the Holy Spirit in the womb. Then you will ask for Mary's assistance in your life, and I'm so glad to say none of that is idolatry.
Hi, this is Carrie Beatley. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men, gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 for the march, and everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about how America's abortion king pushed the lie of abortion on the American people. For more information, go to themensmarch.com.
Are you on the CDT Insider email list? Hi, Joe McClain here. And every week I send you cool stuff straight to your inbox, goodies that you're not going to want to miss. Go to grnonline.com/CDT and get signed up today. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm your host, Joe McClain. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Father Frank Pavone. Good conversation.
Class act.
Make sure to check out the podcast feed or at grnonline.com/CDT if you missed our conversation with Father Frank. That'll be available to you in about an hour from now on the website. And then, of course, it means it's also available on the iTunes Store, on the Google Play Store, on Spotify as well as our mobile app, which you can download free right now from your iOS or Android app store. Look for the Guadalupe Radio Network, where you can listen to the CDT podcast feed in the flyout, as they say. I mean, I bet I don't have to explain what that means to like you, Rudy, or Adrian, because you guys are young'uns. But anybody of my vintage or older, it's the 3 hash bar thingies up to the. It's either to the left or it's to the right. If you thumb that, finger that thing, there's like a fly out that jumps. It's whack! It just jumps out at you, and it has a bunch of other information.
We just call those the bars.
The bars?
Click on the little bars there.
Do you say that? Is that what the youngins say these days?
I've never heard a fly out before.
The fly out. It's the bars?
What are we talking about? AOL time? Like
You've got mail.
Floppy disk.
Man, I once put back in the good old days when I worked in secular radio. This was 1996. And I thought to myself,
hoping you would say 97. That's the best year.
And I thought to myself, what if? Because I was paying. I was like broke. I had no money, and I had to buy like all these cassette tapes to make demo tapes, demo reels to send out to potential radio stations to try to get a job.
Did you splurge for like the really top end? Like,
yeah, they had a guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just go to this guy over here. He'll take good care of you." And then like, you know, and I was broke. It was broke as a joke. But I thought to myself, why don't I just put the demo reel on a disc and send it to them this way? Why burn all these cassette tapes?
It's true.
When I could just put 1.4 megs is all we could get on that disc.
Really?
1.4 megs?
Yeah, 1.4 megabytes.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's like a Word document.
I used to have to carry the container of all my air quotes floppy. They were actually not floppy. They were hard. The older ones were the floppy ones. But the hard disks, I had to carry like the container. It was bulky and annoying. So anyway, all that to say, go to the flyout of the GRN mobile app, and you can listen to your Catholic Drive Times podcast digitally and clear as crystal 24/7, as well as the live local GRN radio station. All of that available in your app store. Search for the Guadalupe Radio Network. Praise be to God. Yeah, mixtapes back in the good old days. I may still have a demo tape. Speaking of which, before we jump over to Tito Edwards, because I'm preparing to give these talks this Friday in New Hampshire, I hate listening to my old talks. I mean, I loathe listening to myself.
Why?
It makes my skin crawl to have to listen to me. It is really, really annoying. But nonetheless, I had to do it to prepare. And And I wanted to share with you today that I 15 years ago. Adrian, how old were you 15 years ago?
8.
When you were 8 years old. When you were 8 years old and you were watching Power Rangers, I was recording and narrating Ignatius of Antioch's 7 epistles while he was on his way to be eaten by lions in the Roman Colosseum. 1st century, early 2nd century. I narrated them 15 years ago. I'm putting them in the com box of all of our live video feeds today and our Telegram group if you would like to go and listen to that. But I warn you, I've listened to them. They're horrible.
It's true.
I'm going to analyze how much your voice has changed.
It is
15 years.
Horrendous. But at any rate, let's speak of better things here. Good morning to you, Tito Edwards, BigPulpit.com.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Rudy. Good morning, Adrian.
Praise be to God. How was your surgery, sir?
It went fantastic. It was flawless. Swelling is minimum, and I still have to wear a sling for till the end of the month. Thank you for asking.
Now, this is all in anticipation of trying to make next year's spring training season for the Astros. I understand you're going to be in the bullpen, maybe the lineup there, or what's the future like?
Yes, I intend to identify as their lead pitcher in the bullpen next year.
You just go to the bank and say, hey, I identify as being a multi-million-dollar pitcher for the Astros. Can you include that in my bank account? That and a nickel will probably get you nowhere. But what is pretty impressive is maybe not your baseball career, but this Monday morning issue at BigPulpit.com. I mean, good grief, there's like 7,000 links there today. Is there that much going on?
There is so much going on. Things in the Catholic blogosphere or the Catholic internet has changed since 10 years ago and even before then. So there's just so much great information out there to be a Catholic. The Catholic internet is its own biosphere. It's just incredible the amount of information and news that you can find out there. And it's gotten to the point where I just have to start weaning out. I'm trying to just link to just news links and eliminate podcasts and YouTube and Rumble videos. It's just almost an overwhelming amount of information.
It is, but I like the way you categorize things so that we can narrow that down even quicker to what we're looking for and what's of interest to us. And there's all kinds of categories, so I encourage everybody to check it out, bigpulpit.com. But there were 2 stories that stood out to me from a Catholic perspective. One is Pope Francis announced over the weekend that he's extending the Synod on bishops to 2024. I was actually hoping that he would just be done with it all, but we're actually going to have a whole another year of all of this. What's going on?
Yes, they're extending it for 1 more year so we can better percolate the information out. Is just I feel synodalized hearing that announcement. But what I read behind the scenes is they're disappointed in the lack of participation and are trying to encourage more of the laity to get involved. But it's just in my opinion, as an analyst, this is unneeded. And we need to get this done and over with.
Yeah, they had like less than 5% participation around the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I think I read that as I was trying to read the 7,000 articles. but yeah, I don't know. I think they're successfully propagandizing the 1% of the participants in pushing dead agenda items from the 1960s and 70s.
Tito, is my question of this whole thing, when I heard about them extending it, my immediate reaction was, oh, should I be happy about this? Because that means it's another year when we don't have to get the results from it. Or should we be more depressed about it and be like, oh, great, now we don't get this over with. Now I got to wait another year before we get the bad news. What's your kind of reaction to this?
I'm the rip the Band-Aid off the wound kind of guy, so I don't like it at all. It's just going to be another year of misinformation and trying to bring out the felt banners and the liturgical dancers for one more trip. So it's unneeded. In this day and age of instant communication, I understand small group information is great and all, but I think they're not happy with the results, the enthusiasm behind the scenes, and they're going to give it one more year to try and kick that dead horse and see if it'll come back to life. And we just need to grin and bear it. As Catholics, we need to be, show a happy face and be charitable and continue to analyze and deconstruct all the misinformation that's coming out there so far.
The extension part of this, does this mean there's going to be a session later, or there's going to be a session this year, next year, and then 2024 in Rome in the Vatican, or are we talking about extending synods locally in various dioceses around the country and, conferences of bishops in various countries?
That's the thing with the article. That's the same question I had after reading that. It just seems like they've just delayed the final synod where they summarize all the information from all the dioceses to the continents and then put it in one document. They've just extended it 1 year to give the national organization more time. I don't think there'll be more time on the local level for us to participate. That's what I'm reading. I'm reading into the article and Pope Francis's declaration. I may have misread that, but I just don't see any more local participation, more synods coming around.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch to another story that made a national attention in secular outlets, in fact, and that is Father Pfleger, a notorious priest in the Archdiocese of Chicago, has been suspended by Cardinal Cupich. What's the story there?
There have been allegations from 40 years ago of a man claiming to have been sexually assaulted in the rectory, I believe, or in the sacristy. I'm not. Forgive me for that part. And he has come out and made these accusations to Father Michael Pfleger. We have to remember also. Similar accusations were thrown against him. Cardinal Cupich suspended him. They investigated it, and they found no grounds for any proof of the previous allegations. So we're going to see what happens with this. Father Michael Pfleger should be considered innocent until proven guilty, if he is guilty. But just from all the sad sex scandals we've been following through the years, when a second and a third and a fourth keep popping up, that's not a good sign. Mm-hmm. But hopefully they're untrue, and it's just a misguided parishioner who's accusing Father Michael Pfleger. On the other hand, we need to take the allegations seriously and just wait and see what the Archdiocese will uncover. But yeah, in summary, it's accusations from 40 years ago of alleged sexual contact by Father Michael Pfleger to this young adult.
Now, he just went through another accusation just not even a year ago, and he was exonerated, so to speak. And I can't remember. Maybe you can, or I don't know if you can or can't, but I don't think he was suspended the last time, was he? Is that new?
I think he was. No, I think he was suspended. I remember him at least. And then reinstated. At the minimum, he was removed from the parish.
I see. But then he was reinstated by Cardinal Cupich. So this could be exactly like that time. Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this question. So out of all of these stories that you're posting today over at bigpulpit.com, what is your favorite? What did anything stand out to you in the lineup of stories today?
Yeah, well, not to my surprise, but I guess I'm a little surprised because this was a big click. It was really popular back in the burgeoning Catholic blogosphere of 10 years ago, is people reporting liturgical abuses. And above and beyond any other news story, David L. Gray's investigation of a parish in Santa Monica, California, of a Catholic mass nightmare. That is double the amount of visitors of any other news link on my website. So it's rather interesting that after 10 more years of trying to get Vatican II right and implementing the directives from the documents, we're still seeing this in 2022 out in California, where we have children in tie-dye T-shirts standing around the altar, the sacred space of a parish priest.
So gross.
My goodness.
Yeah, please let's pray for our church. Let's pray for everybody involved. But bigpulpit.com has all the stories for you. You should check them out online, bigpulpit.com. And it's a great way to sort of get a summary of everything going on in the Catholic world and find those links that you're looking for and be able to read them very quickly. Again, bigpulpit.com. Tito Edwards, thank you for being on with us. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Same here. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
All right. Praise be to God. Enough of the difficulties. Let's have some fun. What do you say? You might learn something. You can have a laugh, and you could win prizes. But you need to call right now at 877-757-9424. Call right now. 877-757-9424. Phone lines are open to you. First caller gets to play at 877-757-9424.
The Bible clearly says that Jesus had brothers and sisters, but the Catholic Church teaches that Mary was a perpetual virgin. How can that be?
Mark 6, verse 3 says, "Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joses and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" Point number one to consider. There is no word for cousin or for nephew or for niece, aunt, uncle in ancient Hebrew or Aramaic. The words that the Jews used in all those instances were brother or sister. An example of this can be seen in Genesis 14:14, where Lot, who was Abraham's nephew, is called his brother. Another point to consider, would the last thing that Jesus did on earth be to grievously offend his surviving brothers? Right before Jesus dies, John 19 tells us that Jesus entrusted the care of his mother to the Apostle John. If Mary had any other sons, this would have been an incredible slap in the face to them that the Apostle John was entrusted with the care of their mother. Also, we see from Matthew 27, 55, and 56 that the James and Joses mentioned in Mark 6 as the brothers of Jesus are actually the sons of another Mary. And one other passage to consider, Acts 1 verses 14 to 15 speaks of a company of about 120 persons that consist of the apostles, the women, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. Now, let's see. There were 11 apostles at the time. Jesus' mother makes 12. The women, probably the same 3 women mentioned at the crucifixion in Matthew 27, but let's say it was maybe a dozen or 2, just for argument's sake. That puts us up to 30 or 40 or so. So that leaves the number of Jesus' brothers at about 80 or 90. According to this scripture passage. Do you think Mary had 80 or 90 children? She would have been in perpetual labor. No, scripture does not contradict the teaching of the Catholic Church about the brothers of Jesus when scripture is interpreted in proper context.
A beacon of truth in a troubled world. This is the Guadalupe Radio Network, radio for your soul.
Welcome to another round of Fear and Trembling, the Catholic trivia game show that helps you work out your salvation by the seat of your pants. It's a 50-50 chance and prizes are involved. Avoid the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Call now to take your shot, 877-757-9424. And now, your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time and Fear and Trembling, a Catholic trivia game show with secrets and agendas, and you could win. You could play. It's fun. I guarantee it. All you need to do is make a phone call, and that phone number is wide open to you right now. If you've never played before, well, let me try to convince you that this is a good opportunity. First caller gets to play the game at 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424. Phone lines are open. Adrian Fonseca waiting to take your call right now at 877-757-9424. There are some things we do on the down low, on the QT, but you have to keep them quiet, all right? So don't be texting this to your buddy. But number one, we like to teach the faith. So we look for teachable moments in the questions where you might learn something you didn't know before. Praise be to God. And then, of course, we like to have a laugh. We like to have a chuckle, especially after all the news we have to cover. So it's always a good time, and our callers laugh with us, and we enjoy that most, I'd say. But then we give out prizes, which means it's a winner for everybody involved, really. You can't lose in this deal. You could learn, you could laugh, and you could win. It's just an amazing deal, but you have to call now, 877-757-9424. That phone number is 877-757-9424. That's 877-757-9424. First caller gets to play the game at 877-757-9424. But here's the kicker. Out of the 3 Catholic trivia questions I have in front of me, I will not be asking the callers the questions. They don't need to know. They may not know a single one and could still win the game, because instead of asking them, I will ask Rudy and Adrian. One of them will have a correct answer. The other will not. The caller will then have 15 seconds to make a decision. Whom do they trust more, Rudy or Adrian? And then every correct answer goes into the coffee cup of divine providence to win this week's prize. But we need the caller to play the game. So if you would like to play, have a laugh and learn something, well, call right now, because you may win. 877-757-9424. That phone number is 877-757-9424. Rudy, what could they win?
The gift this week, I'm holding it in my hand. Hewn from the most wonderful marble.
Really?
That Earth can provide.
What? Italian?
Italian. I don't know. I don't know if it's actual marble.
Croatian?
But to follow the week, or the week following last week, to continue the theme, October is the month of the Most Holy Rosary.
What?
And the Lujan family gave us 2 rosaries to give away. So, if you missed your chance last week to get a rosary made by the Lujan family, you have another chance this time. Now, instead of turquoise, we have what appears to be marble, with a beautiful Our Lady of Mount Carmel centerpiece and the really great corpus that was featured last week. So the caller this week, or rather the person this week, is going to win this when we draw on Friday.
Wow. I thought you were going to say hewn from acacia wood overlaid with gold.
Oh.
Just like the Ark of the Covenant.
Is it acacia wood?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Huh.
Oh yeah. Only the finest.
Fascinating.
Praise be to God. But you're saying that's marble.
It's marble.
From Croatia or Italy?
No.
Where is that? It's like the finest.
I don't know if it's actual marble. It's marble-like, marble-like consistency. It's got marbling on it.
Does it feel good in the hand? Does it feel good in the hand?
I got to tell you.
Yeah.
The weight of all your prayers is in here.
Wow.
It's just like, whoo. It's dense.
Praise be to God. All right, let's go to the phones. Jose, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Praise be to God. Jose, where are you calling from?
Houston.
Houston, Texas. Are you an Astros fan, Jose? Well, we could all say we're trying to. Some of us are better fans than others, to be sure. But where do you go to church, Jose?
Our Lady of Walsingham.
Ooh, very nice.
Spring Branch.
Yes, know it well. I was over there not that long ago. They're building again. Like, every time I go there, there's a new building on the property. So.
Yeah, they are having a lot of construction going on.
Yeah, praise be to God. Well, Jose, we're grateful for your time today. Thank you for being on our show. Do you understand how this game works, sir?
I think so, yes.
All right. Well, we're going to get started. Good morning to you, Rudy Carlos. You are our tradition-approved first player today.
Very good.
Yeah, we appealed to the Vatican, and
they renewed the contract.
And the Holy Office.
That's true.
And they said, yeah, why not? You can go with Rudy. It's fine.
Cool.
We're like, fantastic.
A couple more years.
They said, but watch out for the ties. That's all they said. They didn't even explain it. They're just like, watch out for the ties.
They didn't mention anything about the Pentecost tie.
And you are wearing a tie today. So
Pentecost fire, baby. Look at that.
Correlate that information as you see fit, Jose. But Rudy, are you ready?
I am ready.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Let's start with an easy one.
Okay.
Who is the patron saint of South America?
That's kind of a tricky question.
Is it?
Because you wonder, is the Blessed Mother a saint? Well, yes, she is. She is Our Lady of Guadalupe.
Oh, that's who the patron is.
That's the patron.
Or in her case, patroness. So Our Lady of Guadalupe would be your answer. All right. Let's just
Some
see.
would say Guadalupe. Others would say Guadalupe.
Well, which should I say?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's about the same.
Thanks for being helpful. All right, let's see what Adrian has to say. Adrian, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Praise be to God. You're always wearing a tie, so it's hard to correlate that information.
It's true. It's
maybe
true.
we should track the patterns.
Oh,
that
well,
could be one way.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. But in the meantime, could you tell me who is the patron saint of South America?
The patron saint of South America. Wow. Now it's a very, very astute person.
Oh, really?
Yes, that would be Oscar Romero.
What? Mind blown. Okay. So, Saint Oscar Romero is what you're saying.
I'm saying Oscar Romero.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, did you say Saint Oscar Romero?
I said Oscar Romero.
Saint Oscar Romero it is. Okay. All right. Hey, Jose in Houston, Texas. You got options. Adrian is over here saying it's Saint Oscar Romero, whereas Rudy says it's Our Lady of Guadalupe. 15 seconds on the clock. Who is the patroness or patron of South America? Jose, what say you?
I would say Our Lady of Guadalupe.
You're just going to go with Rudy, just like that. Duh. Oscar Romero.
We started off easy for him.
Yeah. Congratulations,
Now it's
Jose.
really hard.
It is, in fact, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Well done. You're in the cup. You might win. Let's go with a hard one, though. I agree. This is hard. Probably the hardest, at least for today. Maybe since Friday of last week as well. But let's just go with Adrian first, who is literally an expert in all things color and fashion.
Right.
Adrian, can you tell me?
Yes.
What color is the beretta that a bishop wears?
Well, as someone who identifies as having a PhD in color science, one might call it colorology.
Wow.
That would be purple. And yes, a PhD in colorology means they know everything about anything that has to do with colors.
And you're a fashionista too, so it makes sense. So you're on the board for purple. All right, let's see what Rudy says. Rudy, can you tell me what color is the beretta that a bishop wears?
Yes, they're issued to them from Italy. They're made specifically for each different bishop and cardinal, and they're gunmetal. You know, it's pretty straightforward. Gunmetal.
Gunmetal?
Yep.
It's like a bluish tint, I think.
So you could blue it, I suppose, but it's gunmetal. Yeah.
It's gunmetal. Interesting. Fascinating. All right, Jose in Houston, you've got options. We're talking about the color that the beretta of a bishop and what he wears there. Is it gunmetal, as Rudy wants us to believe, or is it purple, as the fashionista over here, Adrian Fonseca, says? 15 seconds on the clock. Who is right? Who is wrong? Jose, what say you, sir?
I'll say the purple one.
Say that one more time.
Purple one, he says.
The purple one?
I say the purple, yeah.
Jose! Are you a poker player, sir?
He got the hardest one.
That was brilliant. Notice he didn't say Adrian is right. See, he was still correct and trying to admit it without having to admit it. That is master level stuff. Write Jose's down for the best of the best playoff tournament that we're going to do eventually.
Okay.
Were we talking about hats or guns?
I forgive him.
Hats. We're talking about hats.
Oh,
you thought we were talking about the bishop's gun?
The bishop's gun made by Beretta.
No.
Oh,
All
got
right.
it.
You're in for two. Purple is the correct color of the bishop's Beretta, but let's see if we can't get you in there 3 times. Back to Rudy. Rudy, can you tell me? The charges that were formally made for the use of certain seats in a church were called what?
They're called pew rents.
What?
Pew rents.
Pew rents.
That's right.
Like we had to pay for that?
It means don't sit here.
Just like, okay.
This is reserved for the choir.
Let's see what Adrian says. Adrian, I'm sure you always sit in the very same seat every single Mass. Could you tell me the charges that were formally made for the use of certain seats in a church were called what?
Those are called indulgences.
What? Really? Are you being serious?
I'm being serious.
Indulgences?
Indulgences.
Were they indulgent? Like they had comfy empty seats?
I don't know.
Not quite.
All right. Well, here you go, Jose. You got options. These charges for sitting in a seat in a church, were they called indulgences, as Adrian said, or pew rents, as Rudy suggests? 15 seconds on the clock. Who's right? Who's wrong? Jose at Our Lady of Walsingham. What say you? Jose?
I would say the first option.
Pew rents? Is that your... Unfazed. I'm not playing poker with you, Jose. You play a mean game there, good sir. Perfect score. You're in for 3. You could win. Congratulations. Thanks for having a good time with us today. We're very grateful to you. Oh, Jose, call back. You left too soon, Jose. Call back. Oh, we need to get your information, so call us back, 877-757-9424. Hey, that's going to do it for the first hour and the second hour. Now we go into the after show. Join us at grnonline.com.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now, and God love you.
Oh, Jose! Hung up on me too fast. Darn it.
Jose's like, oh no, I'm late to work. I gotta go.
Yeah. Well, bye. Jose, if you're on hanging out with us, which I doubt because you were driving.
Nah, you know what, man?
You got to call in.
Don't call back. I'm throwing away your entries.
Don't shoot. Stop. Jose was great. He played well. It was a good time.
Nah, man, I can't stand people who hang up sober.
So they don't know. It's not their fault. Hey, we need some context behind this last question. At what point? I mean, I know that I always put a sign on our pew.
I believe it.
Do you?
And it says...
By the way, thank you for saving a pew yesterday.
You're welcome. On pain of excommunication, do not sit in my pew. That's what the sign says.
Yeah, my guess, if I had to just guess, I would assume it has to do with the fact that pews weren't a thing in churches until the Protestant Revolution.
Yeah.
And they probably just added them in. And when they first added them in, I bet it was like, oh, well, this is like a fundraising opportunity. Let's see. Father John Hardin's Modern Catholic Dictionary, which I guess is not modern anymore, says pew rents, charges that were formerly made in some dioceses for the use of certain seats in church. In the United States, the practice had been approved by the Third Council of Baltimore and endorsed by the Holy See as a source of revenue for church maintenance and the support of the clergy. Renting a pew or section entitled a person to use a given place at all or any of the divine services in that church. In some dioceses, a person could receive pastoral administrations even though registered in another parish. Those unable to pay pew rents were at liberty to use the numerous unassigned seats in the church. So I guess it's kind of like they do the parking spot. Yeah, the rented parking spot.
Yeah.
So
don't say it too loud. You may see an embracing of tradition yet again.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
And that would be such a great fundraiser
opportunity
at places like Regina Caeli, where it's so packed that it's just like unbelievable.
Don't say it too loud.
That
please.
might be the fundraiser.
Don't say that loudly, because then they're gonna get these ideas, and then they're gonna be like, oh, let's do this again. This is tradition, right? This is what we used to do. Let's do this again. Okay. Not all traditions are created equal, and not all traditions are awesome. Some traditions are no bueno.
I wouldn't say that this is no bueno, but
it's no bueno.
Why do you say it's no bueno?
Well, number one, it reminds me of St. Ambrose. Was it St. Ambrose? I think it was St. Ambrose. Man, I'm having a brain fog today, so it's not. The frog is back, by the way.
Brain frog?
The brain frog is back. It's been a long time. Who was it that was... I know it was my St. Paul complaining about it, but how there was like the rich folks were having things that the poor folks couldn't have, and then St. Ambrose put out the emperor.
Paul?
I think it was St. Paul commenting on it. I'm having a vague memory. But in going back to Ambrose put the emperor out because he showed up in the sanctuary at his parish in Milan on a visit and said, "Hey, I want to help serve at the altar." And Ambrose sends the deacon over and shoos him away. And the emperor had to stand, because no pews, had to stand on the same level as everybody else. So the beggar on the street stood on the same level as the emperor of the world at the time.
Kind of like Assisi.
It makes all things equal is my point. I guess what I'm getting at here is it makes all things equal. And then, of course, if you start charging for pews, the rich Catholics get the nice stuff, and the poor Catholics get put in the back. And that would be terrible.
I mean,
didn't our Blessed Lord say that the first shall be last?
And the last shall be first.
So technically, it's not that bad, no?
I mean, for instance, the King of Spain, he has the privilege of having being able to sit in the sanctuary. So I mean, there is a tradition of royalty having special privileges in the sanctuary or in the mass. So I don't know. I'm not opposed to the idea in principle. I think it's a good fundraising opportunity, as long as it's not abused. I mean, if you start selling all the pews, but if you sell we're going to rent the first pew on the left and the right side. I think it's a great financial opportunity, especially considering
negative. Don't
the
stop.
necessity of
They're
it.
Don't do this,
because there's
terrible
no pews.
idea. Please stop.
Imagine what that would go for in an auction.
This tradition.
Auction it off.
Exactly.
Imagine at Regina Caeli what that would go for.
You know, I have heard rumors. I've spoken to people who've told me this from their firsthand experience. I have never verified it, so take this with a grain of salt. But Joel Osteen, peace be upon him, I understand from somebody I talked to who tried to go to his church that their tax records had to be presented before they could become members. And that's
pretty common.
Their seating in the building was determined by their income and donation to the church every year.
Wow.
Yeah, I know a lot of Baptist churches do things similar to that.
If you look up to the nosebleed section, because it's an old basketball arena, those folks aren't given much. The folks down front, they're given the most.
Papa needs a new jet airplane.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I know a lot of the Baptist communities, they will require you to give your financial reports because they want to make sure you're tithing 10%. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's not such a bad thing, because I mean, it's an obligation to tithe. Yeah. Though they changed it from 10% to whatever. Literally, that's what it is. It's like whatever you want. You just have to provide. I think the language they use is provide for the temporal needs, and that's about it.
Temporal needs of the
church,
of the Pope buying property that they have parties at.
I may support it if he gets back the Papal States. I may be up to that. Yeah,
I would too.
So
ironically,
I have a question for everybody. So there's this my buddies with Tridentine Brewing, the people, Jeff Kastman. I don't know if you know who that is. He's
the people who won't let you buy their beer.
He doesn't let you buy his beer. He can't sell his beer.
Like legally. I said, he doesn't let you buy the beer.
But anyway, the Jeff Kastman, he did several debates with Matt Fradd on his Pints with Aquinas. He posted a picture of his beer, and it was like, I'm enjoying this beer. Y'all need to check out Tridentine Brewing. And Chris Smith, SJ, said, why would you put Our Lady's image on something literally destined for the trash? Even if you recycle the bottles, the labels will be discarded. Sacred images, even weird mass-produced ones, deserve respect.
True.
Now, I have a question for everybody. What do y'all think about that idea? I'm sympathetic to this. Chris Smith, I don't find to be a very genuine person, so I'm kind of don't really care about his opinion in particular. But Joe and I, we've talked about this, like the Magnificats, like throwing them away because they have sacred images on them, they have the gospel written in them, things like that. It's a little uncomfortable. But then it gets into the question of this, and so that's why I was asking Chris Smith. I was saying, well, I mean, theoretically, might be sympathetic to it, but would you also say like liturgical calendars, Magnificat, planners, plush saints, saint keychains, T-shirts, hats, mugs, car decals, stickers, all these things, because they're all disposable. They're all destined for the trash. So what do y'all think? Are these things okay? Are these things not okay? What are your thoughts on it? I don't have an answer, but I lean towards maybe we should just stop making all of these things. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I kind of like them. I don't know.
Hey, leave your commentary in the com box then.
You know, that was the reason why I don't like getting these catalogs from these companies, because you can never opt out of them. You know, they just send it to you in the mail, and then you have a literal, like, 2-inch thick catalog full of sacred images. Yeah.
Burn them.
So ideally...
Problem is then, you got that smell. You have to burn it outside because you don't want to fill your house with the smell of plastic and ink and ugh.
Yeah, so ideally you would either bury it or you would burn it. But who's going to take the time to do that these days? No one. Especially if you live in an apartment. Like, how are you going to do that? You know? So I'm of the camp, probably stop doing it. Stop mass producing stuff. Mass produced stuff is so terrible. Ugh.
Hey, let's
bring back quality artwork.
Let me change the subject here. This is something far more important.
Okay. What do you got?
Far more important than what we do with our ladies' images, okay?
What do you got?
Far more important.
Or be precise in your lightning strikes.
Yeah, exactly. So let's hear it there, Brother Adrian. What did His Eminence Taylor Marshall say when you met him over the weekend?
Oh, nothing interesting. Me and some other people from Catholic Twitter got together Friday night.
Whoa. Let's focus. Let's be hyper-focused right now.
And we met up. And that's where Taylor Marshall, Eric Sammons, and some other guys, we all got together.
Yeah, okay, great. What's Taylor Marshall say?
About what? Just in general?
Yeah. Like, how did that conversation go?
Fine. Just
nothing?
Talked about...
You're not going to offer anything?
Random things. I don't know. Talked about
random things.
Talked about
like what kind of random things?
I don't know, man. All sorts of things. I don't know. It was just a pretty organic conversation. It wasn't like an interview or anything. You're just chatting with people. Talked about security at churches. He had a buddy of his who who was there with us, who got blown off by a jet and got injured because of it. And now he's there. So he was talking about how these Muslim guys keep trying to invade their Mater Dei over there. It's kind of interesting.
Wo's trying to invade the Mater Dei?
Muslims. Apparently, like they'll have Muslim guys come walk in and they just like follow the guy around, and he would just hang out, being all suspicious.
That happened.
They had a guy who had a baby carriage, and they said that there was nothing in the baby carriage.
Yeah, that's...
They said that the blanket fell over, and they saw that there was nothing in the baby carriage, and they were like, "What the?"
Yeah, that stuff like that would happen in Annunciation. Muslims would come in and sit in the back, and make everybody very nervous.
It's pretty freaky.
Yeah, it would be. Downtown, of course, you get all kinds of characters. So, but Mater Dei is not downtown. Mater Dei is out of the way.
However, Mater Dei, apparently, he was showing me, is surrounded by mosques. There's like 7 of them.
I can't. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now and just disgusted by some of the stuff that I'm seeing. All right, so going back to Taylor Marshall. So you didn't talk about the show at all? Nothing?
Not really.
No?
I mentioned it once.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said, "Oh, that's cool."
That's what he said?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sure. Anything else? Nothing you can remember, though, huh?
Nothing that interesting, no, not really.
Interesting. Adrian, indulged in too much communal wine. Actually, it was beer. It wasn't wine.
Yeah, I didn't have any wine. I had beer, though. I had a couple. Actually, not. I had one. I had one beer. Hefeweizen. No, I had a Hefeweizen on Saturday, and I had a Murphy's on
beers
Friday.
with the boys.
That's what I had.
Sienna says, I miss Emily Alcaraz. She's getting married. Is she?
She will not be Emily Alcaraz for very long. Yeah. She'll be married in January.
So that's right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Mendoza, good morning to you. Can't the police and elderly sit in the sanctuary?
No.
No, they're not kings. Only kings, man. Come
sanctuary,
on, Victor.
Specifically, we're referring to
only rich, powerful people can sit in the sanctuary.
Where the priest sits, where the servers sit. That's what we're talking about. Not, I mean, and that, I don't know quite what you're referring to.
He's the point that you said about the king being able to sit in the sanctuary.
Right. But I don't think, like, I've never heard of that situation of having elderly people being allowed to sit in the sanctuary.
I think we should keep everybody out of the sanctuary who's not supposed to be there.
Right.
King or otherwise.
Well, he's supposed to.
Or otherwise. Let them sit where everybody else does. That's what I say.
Why are you so against monarchy?
I'm not against monarchy, but they don't need to be in the sanctuary.
Why not?
Because they aren't ordained.
Well, neither the servers.
I agree. They are there to serve, and they are the ones preparing or discerning the priesthood life. So the king needs to sit with everybody else out on the floor, and they should get rid of the pews. Just delete all pews, and let's go back to the glory days. Let's embrace that tradition. How about that?
I guess that's what most of people who go to Virginia Tilly are doing, huh?
Yes, they are. Boy, they're embracing it hardcore, I'd say. Oh, Lord, please help us build a church someday soon. Let's see here. What did you guys do over the weekend? Anything? Let us know of anything good. Adrian just hung out with all of the coolest ratty tratties. Out of all of them, who was your favorite, Adrian?
I don't know, man.
Who was the most interesting to see, to me? Bishop Athanasius?
Well, I didn't get to talk to him much. I said hi and then took a picture with him and then left. I mean, there's a billion people trying to talk to him.
Cool.
The princess, there was 750 people at the event. So
that's pretty good, man.
It's quite a lot of people.
It's quite a crowd.
My favorite was myself. I think I really enjoyed my company.
You got to meet
Dave
Michael
Palmer.
Knowles.
I got to meet Dave Palmer.
You got to meet E. Michael Knowles.
Michael Jones?
Jones. Why do I do that again?
I don't know.
E. Michael Jones.
E. Michael Jones. He was
the last time I conflated Lofton and who? Did I conflate?
E. Michael Lofton.
E. Michael Lofton, yeah.
I'm doing. I don't know what is about him that I do that to him.
Lots of Michaels, I guess.
Michael Jones. You got to meet him.
That's true. He was interesting, but I mean, most of the people I only talked to for like.
But still,
10 seconds.
But out of those 10-second conversations, which was your favorite?
Probably the princess.
Really?
Princess Maria Ann Habsburg. And I don't know what her, I forget what her other name is because she's married now. She married a Russian countess. Or count, rather. I don't know why I said
I was like, oh, man,
she married a Russian count. And guess who married her?
Who?
Monsignor Fulton Sheen.
Charles Pope.
Fulton Sheen?
Monsignor Fulton Sheen.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, what? That's crazy. So
now was Mueller there?
No.
Mueller wasn't there because Sorry.
Breaking news, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
John T. Fisher says, I am actually starting to enjoy the show.
Hey.
He's starting to.
I'm glad you're starting to enjoy the show. Stick around. Maybe you'll actually enjoy it.
A slow process, okay?
Look, we're a slow burn, man.
The more you watch, the more you'll like it.
It's like bourbon. It's an acquired taste.
Hey, Don. Happy birthday, my friend. Happy
Don
birthday
Paddock?
to you. Don Paddock. His birthday was yesterday. Praise be to God.
Happy birthday, man.
All right, so you get two options. You want us to sing happy birthday the regular way, or do you want us to sing happy birthday like Marilyn Monroe to JFK?
I ain't doing that.
So you choose.
You lead the way, Rudy.
You choose, Don.
You lead the way, my friend. Yikes.
Go for the second option.
That's a little gay, not gonna lie.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, so
avoid it like
I'm trying to think of, I mean, the people, probably the princess, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
She was just, it was just really cool to meet a princess.
Here's a question, though. So this is not their first Blessed Carl conference. This is what, their second or third?
I think it's their, I want to say it's their third. Yeah.
How do you continue? So the idea here is they're trying to propagate his cause. They're trying to get support for the cause.
Not only that, but they're also trying to use Blessed Carl as a model for life. Like it's kind of like a men's conference almost.
I got it.
And they're using Blessed Carl as a model for that, as a model of they actually say priest, prophet, and king.
To restore monarchy.
And to promote monarchy, which is very interesting. And the other thing that's interesting is the fact that Blessed Carl's relationship with peace, he was trying extraordinarily hard to broker peace during World War I. Ultimately, he failed because of being backstabbed several times by several different people. And he ended up being exiled from his home because of it. And he went back to his kingdom to reclaim his throne on like 3 different occasions, and then was exiled over and over again. Ended up dying when his wife was pregnant with her 8th child, which is wild. And so they talk about him being a model, and his wife is a servant of God. And so I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a model for our times of trying to broker peace. Even if we don't succeed, we should definitely try, especially with the stakes being so high.
Craig says he thinks Cardinal Mueller was absent because he was playing hooky. Mueller. It was Mueller's day off.
Yikes.
I think we need to make a meme
Cue
now.
the crickets.
I think we need to make a meme of Cardinal Mueller's face on Ferris Bueller's body. That would be brilliant, Craig. That's incredible, Craig. You made my day.
Jay Koch said, "Did you talk about Joe's radio DJ name?" No, I didn't talk about that.
I actually know what it is.
You do?
I did.
Well, then let's
Talk
hear
to
it.
Mrs. McLean.
Go ahead. See what she says.
I'm not going to embarrass you on air. Sorry.
No, I see. No, you have my permission.
Right.
I mean, I've already endured the embarrassment of listening to myself from 15 years ago.
I'm sorry. It's too embarrassing even for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating. Well,
interesting.
I guess it lives on in
I'll
mystery.
take it to my grave.
I guess it lives on in mystery.
The good news is, though, that I have one foot in the grave.
You
so,
well,
you may find out soon.
You don't want to be like Blessed Carl and die young. Though, Blessed Carl, I didn't realize that he died young because he asked God to be a victim soul for his country. And that's how he was asking God. He was praying and asking God for that he could suffer for his country. And then he came down with a serious illness, and he endured it for the love of God. And then he was about to die, and he said, "No, I can't die yet. I still have so much to pray for." And so he asked God to extend his life so he could suffer more. And sure enough, he lived another 3 days, and his suffering was intensified extremely. And his wife was like, "Please ask God to take this away." And he said, "Okay, out of love for you, I will ask." And he prayed. He said, "God, take this away from me, if it be your will." And he ended up dying from it. He said that he would submit himself to anything and everything the doctors told him. And he ended up going through horrible treatments that ended up causing him even greater suffering that did nothing to help him. It's kind of amazing.
Saint Jacinta had a similar track. She didn't really, she couldn't eat. She was having struggles eating, but her mom really wanted her to eat. And she thought she was being disobedient by not doing it. So she gave herself over to eating and caused her great pain and discomfort. Same thing with the treatments that were pointless because she was told she was going to die anyway.
Yeah.
But she endured them out of a sense of offering it up.
That's my sister's confirmation saint.
Jacinta. She's amazing, actually.
Genevieve says, "Hi, Adrian. You're really good at the game show." Thank you, Genevieve. I really appreciate your comments. Let's see. Adrian is too young to have memory loss. What is that in reference to? I don't remember. Jay Koch said, "Isn't the Queen of England ordained?" No, she's not. And I don't know if what you're saying is a joke or not. However, I can't tell with Jay Koch. I know, I can't tell sometimes.
Like, hello?
However, it is and the reason why I can't tell if you're joking is because some people actually think that she's ordained because.
Oh, by the way,
the head of the Church of England is the king and queen,
the supreme leader.
But they're not actually ordained.
Christ on earth.
Yeah, they become the Pope, but they're not actually ordained.
So over the weekend, we watched. Let's see, what did we do? Oh, I sent out the movie to the CDT Insiders on Friday, I Am David. Good film. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. It's a good film. It includes several of the same actors that were in The Passion of the Christ. And I wondered how many of you would catch which ones were there. There's two obvious ones, but there's at least one that's not so obvious, and I wonder if you caught it. Let me know if you did, and if you watched it, and if you caught who that other actor was in the comments. Good film. I Am David. My kids loved it.
Jay Koch also. Go ahead.
And then we watched, there was a film on, it was sort of recreating the miracle from the 13th century of the priest from Prague who doubted the church's teaching on the Eucharist, and a miracle ensued as a result of that. The host bled after he consecrated it, and that led to the Pope Urban, declaring a feast day for Corpus Christi. There was a film made. It's a how do I describe this? It's a low-budget film by the Heritage Girls. So that's like the Girl Scout equivalent kind of a thing, but Catholic. And they made this film, and I think they actually used seminarians to make it. I should link to it, but fair warning, the acting is terrible, but the intent is great. So we watched that. Very fascinating. And then, of course, we watched A Man for All Seasons, which goes back to what you were saying a minute ago about the Queen or the
I'm reading the play.
The monarchy of England declaring themselves to be the supreme leader of the church. A Man for All Seasons, timeless and great. You should check it out. Is it?
I was reading it last night. Jay Koch says, when is Adrian getting married? Can't you set him up or something?
Tomorrow, actually, right?
You should talk to our friend Kimberly Sunderman.
Dude,
she's been trying to set me up forever.
We can't get anyone to stick for him. Sorry.
Yeah, they all run away. It's pretty rapidly.
Another thing that we watched over the weekend that was very fascinating was a documentary film in Polish, and it's called The Two Crowns, and it's available on Amazon Prime. And if you can endure reading the subtitles in English, which we did, it is very well done. It is a very good, very well-produced documentary film. It has some, it's one of those docudrama type of things, so you've got scenes that are being acted out, but they're done very well, to include even the suffering at the end where they're starving in the bunker. It's probably one of the best I've ever seen on the life of St. Maximin Kolbe. Highly recommend it. Kimberly Sunderman said, yes, Adrian, did you ask them to be on the CDT show? Marshall, Bishop Anthony Snyder, anyone else? Oh, well, if that's the question you're asking, then yes, I did. And Taylor Marshall said, I don't wake up that early. I said, I don't get up. He said, I wake up at 7 o'clock, and I have a routine, and I don't deviate except for extraordinary circumstances. I see. So, And also not respond to any message or request ever. Yeah. With, hey, I don't get up that early. Yeah. Oh. He said he does respond to Dave Palmer, though. I bet he does. I'm not at all surprised. And he said, and I asked him about his publishing company, why he went with this publishing company. Apparently, it's his publishing company. So there you go. Oh. Well, now we know. There you know. And then Athanasius Snyder, I didn't ask him, but I did. E. Michael Jones, when I talked to him, I had mentioned that we had interviewed him in the past. He goes, oh, wonderful. And I was like, oh, we should come back on. He goes, anytime, let me know. And
he always responds.
Yeah, he always responds. Eric Sammons, he said he looks forward to coming on again in the future. He said he'll see me again. But I would what I would really love, Charles said, what did he say? He said something that was like, I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Damn it. He makes these comments, and I'm like, bro, I don't know what you're saying.
He's kind of cryptic sometimes.
He is.
Like, what are you?
I don't know what you're saying, man. I'm just like, he's like an eccentric grandpa who's like, you don't know what he's talking about.
He's like the grandfather around the fire. And
Charles Colomb showed up 15 minutes late to the event, and they're like sitting around waiting for him.
No.
And he shows up wrinkled in all his clothes.
Are you serious? Oh, no.
Wow. I was like, bruh. He showed up with Edward Habsburg, and Edward Habsburg walks in, and they're like, I thought you were with Charles Colomb. He's like, yeah, Charles said he wanted to grab a coffee. That's the best right there. I was like, bruh, are you kidding me? That's some pro-level stuff. Oh, my goodness. But you know who we should reach out to? The princess.
She apparently lives in Houston.
Which princess is this? The Habsburg princess?
Yes.
Well, then book it.
I don't know. I have to figure out how to get a hold of her.
Well,
and I need to figure out
buddies.
She lives in Bunker Hill Village. I bet you.
I bet you too.
I want to know where she goes to mass.
Or River
Walsingham.
Oaks. Or River Oaks.
It could be Walsingham.
My
That's
money
true. That's
is
a good
on
point.
Walsingham and Bunker Hill.
Yeah.
This is like playing a game of Clue.
Yeah.
Bunker Hill Village.
Yeah.
Beautiful place, by the way. And Walsingham.
Bunker Hill's where the big money is. But River Oaks is where probably the
plantation
most
style
money.
homes. Oh,
Bye,
man,
Tammy.
they're gorgeous.
Talking about, Tammy said it's not nap time yet. I have to go to work. Ugh. Yep.
Yeah, well, look, guys, I am dying. Everybody's dying. I might be dying. I'm not sure. So I'm starting to get some weird phantom pains here and there, which are kind of concerning.
I just think it's anxiety because I'm leaving.
No, I'm kind of peace with that. I'm getting some weird bone pains that have like persisted for like a few months. So because I'm a hypochondriac, I think it's like bone cancer or like something crazy.
That's probably not.
It could just be I'm sleeping bad. Our mattress is not
good. It can either be bone cancer or I'm not sleeping well.
Okay, it could be either of those. But the point is, we should pick one day. This is the greatest thing I've read in a long time. We should pick one day out of the month, especially if you're a father, lead your family, and pick a day, and you got to live that day like it's the last day of your life. You pick one day, it could be Friday or whatever, and you tell your whole family, we're going to prepare for death. So what does that look like? You go to confession. You sort your affairs. You dedicate that day to think about eternity. And I guarantee that if you do this, it's going to completely change your outlook for the rest of your life. You're going to start looking at things in light of eternity. And I'm not talking about like big decisions. I'm talking about little things. Everything from your entertainment to how you spend your day, it's going to change your life. So we are dying. We are all dying. And it's time to act like it.
Yeah. There you go, folks. John says, can you get on satellite radio? You're killing my data plan. I'm sorry, my friend.
Download the app.
We are not on satellite radio. Well, you can listen after show on the app. However,
that's right.
We appreciate you sacrificing your data plan to hang out with us.
There's Wi-Fi everywhere, dude.
And call satellite radio and say, hey, you need to get them on there.
Oh, yeah.
And that may help. Who knows? They may call us right away and put us on there. Or, who knows?
Call the princess.
Taylor Marshall may actually want to be on.
Maybe.
Someday. Who knows?
I bet if we offered him a pre-record, he might.
Yeah. Interesting. At any rate, God bless you. God love you. Have a great day. Tomorrow, the FBI whistleblowers will be on.
And when Joe's gone, Taylor Marshall.
After that, I don't care because I won't be here. So
we're going to book all the most controversial guests.
Yes.
Let's get ourselves fired.
Praise be to God. Well, I'm going to work for Home Depot anyway. God bless you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you then.
Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend of mine. I have a friend in Jesus. Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend. If God don't do it, it won't get done. If God don't do it, it won't get done. What up with that? Oh, what up with that? Whoa,
man, what are we talking about?
Come on, man.
Go, Brandon, I agree.
No,